So it seems the personal self clutches desperately onto its existence through fear of being eradicated. It will do all kinds of sneaky things to waylay our progress to awareness, until such time as we do bring the personal self on board, or at least get its cooperation enough that it isn't too much of a drag anchor. It can be rather underhanded. The wants and thrills it seeks for emotional gratification are fairly apparent, so are a little easier to keep a lid on. For even though the personal self will desire this and seek that, we, the real us, who animate all the 5 bodies, don't have to give into its infatuations. The personal self and the influence combined certainly would make perfect bedfellows. As the personal self chases its thrills, and the influence is more than delighted to entice and stimulate the wants of the little self. But again this combination begins to slowly diminish in its effectiveness as we remain strong in our real intent, that is, to recognize our real awareness, and through that to recognize, perceive the is, and stand real with it. We have the occasional thrill, but now with our awareness we become more so the conscious effects of what we set in motion rather than unconscious, until ultimately we have less and less inclination to chase even these, until we are no longer the effect of our unawareness and walk through it all. So does the conflict with the personal self, backed by the ever-encouraging influence, end there. I'd suggest the real side is where everything plays out. In comparison, the dramas and battles on the physical side are small potatoes. On the real side we have the guides, setting up our dream experiences for the purposes of demonstrations that allow us to become more aware, to afford us endless awareness enhancing viewpoints, and the practice of other life levels and real universe perceiving. On the other side we have the dark forces, who set up scenes and situations, generally to be detrimental to our awareness, to place doubt and instill fear. They will produce an endless ream of fake guides and clones as an example to this end. They will unleash crude and easily discerned creatures and scenes to cause further obfuscation, and also attract our attention through the various events they set up, that if we agree and are curious too, we can become tap-lined by. The dreams where I've been attacked by animals who are badly designed, as an example, suggest they are dark forces' creations. Even my mother, Gwen, who appeared in a dream, acted out of accordance, and had a face that lacked features, almost like a very poor and rushed copy. These distortions could only be seen if we are in our state of awareness, for without being connected to that, these details may have been overlooked, or not even seen by the literal personal self, and the controllers would have succeeded in muddying the waters and adding confusion and personal self-doubts to the individual. Guides, too, as I said, can be forgeries. My awareness allowed me to see one fake guide for what it was. It appeared to my real awareness as a cardboard cutout. Now, were I not connected to my real awareness, I'd have perhaps seen it as the individual it was designed to pretend to be, and who knows what nonsense and untruths it may have dumped upon myself. On that occasion, when I saw it for the forgery it was, a great booming voice filled the sky, demanding I forsake my journey to the ears. The subtle underhand tactic failed, so a more direct method was attempted, the voice probably of the Callum, or some such entity. Through awareness we can be assured that we can see the deceptions and the genuine demonstrations, perhaps not initially with our budding awareness, but patience and persistence is the key, and until we become capable of discernment, we can simply regard everything we encounter as the experience it is. For every experience, regardless of the source and intent of those presenting it, can be utilized to become more aware from, if we regard it with detached, being simply the experiencer and not the experience viewpoint, and we don't allow ourselves to be emotionally, mentally engaged, which adds filters over our real awareness and makes determinations of the nature of our real side experiences harder to fathom. Seems, too, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes arrangement with the real self will be made with the guides to ensure we are in our personal self, in order for an experience to convey that which it is designed to demonstrate. That were we in our real awareness, we wouldn't react as we would were our focus in our personal selves, and that which was trying to be shared or provided would be unable to occur. The real you is perfect and with the is. It's just trying to filter what it can to the little created self, and so seems these situations are sometimes required. It was also possible, as I suggested, that the controllers may be far more capable of setting up demonstrations of their own than we give them credit for. Some of what they do is crude, and our awareness can see through them with ease, but sometimes I ponder the possibility of misdirection, that the controllers must surely be by now aware of how their creations can be distinguished from the genuine articles, yet they still insist on churning them out to those that can see through them. Perhaps they are very tenacious in their insistence, or maybe, like a magician, the real trick is occurring while the concentration is on the waving hands. It can become a standard, then, to watch out for badly made creations as indicators of deception. But can we become too comfortable with this easy-to-determine indicator, especially as our awareness may still be expanding, and although it's enough to see the malformed faces, the animals that look like badly drawn cartoons, maybe there are further details that we overlook, that will become known to us as we continue to move more so into our real awareness. In a way, it could be argued that real-side dream experiences are not a valid and trustworthy source of information, especially at the start of our awareness journey. For if we lack the discernment that awareness provides, then we can be easily tricked and manipulated, until such time as we are more aware that the veil of self-imposed literal limitation is lifted from our eyes. The controllers can only deceive so far, and ultimately an aware individual continuing with their process will move beyond their reach and influence. But after millions of eons, I'm fairly certain the dark forces have reached a fairly impressive degree of real-side dream constructing competency. But what of the deadly duo, the personal self and the influence? Are their attempts to entice and seduce and thrill-seek restricted to the physical? The influence will be present up until the mental level, the second heaven of man, so it stands to reason then that its seduction is no longer present beyond this level. The conquering of the mind and emotions and the life levels they are affiliated with will have us beyond the reach of the influence. This would apply to the personal self too. If we go beyond the mental and emotional levels, if we can readily switch into a real awareness view, we move beyond it also. Then we enter the realm of the ethereal and the draw of creational manipulating phenomena. Another test to be sure. So it's safe to say the influence will factor in our dreams. Certainly it will masquerade as individuals to cultivate emotional response, and you can imagine what forms they will take. But what of the personal self? Does it have the capability to alter our dream environment? How cunning can it be? The personal self only understands literalism. It has no awareness, just emotional and mental processes. If an individual is oblivious to the real universes, the process of awareness and the life levels, the little self has nothing to fear, and certainly won't consider being manipulative in order to maintain the fantasy-simulated life it has created for itself and seeks to cling onto. But as an individual becomes more aware, and the knowledge of the process and the psych realms becomes known, then the battle with the personal self begins. The personal self will be aware of the dreams then as fertile grounds that either can be used for awareness expansion or restriction, and considering it seeks to remain where it is, can it manipulate the dream arena? Just like the controllers, who have very apparent deceptions on the real side. Yet maybe that is the misdirection I spoke of. As we focus on and pinpoint these fake setups and scenes, perhaps the personal self takes the opportunity to alter and bend the dream environment. And it's possible then that if we determine a scene to be a seductive ruse by the controllers, and yet are puzzled over why certain other elements were present, and with the awareness never being absolute until it is, the little personal self can come to bear, if given the chance. Maybe it lies in wait for a slight dip in awareness, enough that it can cause alterations to confuse and distract, which, if considered, takes one out of their awareness, just as a controlling dark brat would seek to do. For lucid dreams are a reality, as I have practiced these in the past. You can effectively take control of your dream arena and change it in any way you wish. So this dream manipulation is possible, and with no awareness whatsoever, or very little. And if we are creating in our lucid dream states, and have no awareness connection, then it is our personal self at the wheel, and manifesting scenarios and individuals just for the purposes of thrill-seeking, which is what it indulges in. I suspect that until the personal self reaches a certain point of being diminished through our embracing of real awareness, it will alter dreams in this fashion, if it sees the dangers of the process of awareness from its limited perspective. I have had dreams of this type also. The specifics are not important, but they had the feel as though of desperation, the personal self losing the edge and battle, but has a last card to play, that of dream manipulation, as it knows we take great stock and pay attention to our real side dreams more than ever before. Interestingly though, I have experienced the personal self manipulating dreams, and to great effect. It will cause me to be out of alignment with my real awareness on waking. But it seems the real me is counterbalancing this, for on the occasions the personal self interjects and fouls the real side dreams. On waking and out of alignment, often I will go immediately back to sleep, or the next day if this isn't feasible, and my real self will repair the damage that's been done. It's difficult to define the exact nature of this and give experiential examples. It's more impressions, and those being of the real me returning to the real side and sweeping up all the debris, making things tidy, and sprucing up the mayhem the personal self caused. The best example I can piece together was along these lines: a tumultuous night's sleep, the impressions being of the personal self running riot. I awake and determine myself to be misaligned, and acknowledging the personal self's work. I go back to sleep, and although the imagery is convoluted, perhaps because of being drawn out of my awareness, the impressions are of awareness-enhancing scenes. Amidst the hard-to-fathom imagery, the sense is there. It is a cleaning out, a refreshing breeze of awareness, as opposed to the density and restricting sense of the prior dream. A good comparison too, for how the state of awareness is following the complete opposite state of being, that of awareness disconnection. And then the final scene was confirmation. The clouds of little self obscuring literalism pass, and I am with new friends, and Dwayne is there also. He is sharing with all of us on the real side, and at one point his eyes did flash bright blue. Very spectacular too. It reminded me of how he is perceived as thousands of feet tall on occasion, another indication then of his awareness. His eyes were like windows to the ears, and had the blue fire of purity. On a final note, I have 2 wooden staffs that are leaning against the wall where I lay, besides my magical source of all kinds of phenomena wardrobe. If I turn my head, I can see the staffs, and I seem to do this automatically, between dreams and on waking, during the in-between state, where I am not awake but not asleep. In this state, which I perpetuate through awareness, much physical phenomena I can witness. These staffs in particular alter and change in colour and shape, depending on my state of awareness. They have become my indicators of where I am with my awareness, on waking and between dreams, if I am in my between state, which I am practised in the maintaining of long enough to gauge that which the staffs are conveying. My real self knows exactly what it is the staffs are demonstrating, whereas my personal self would be quite puzzled. And so, if I do have interference in a dream by the personal self, I will wake up, and my staffs will be a certain colour, and the opposite holds true if I've had a dream where I was in my state of awareness. One staff often represents my real self, and the other my personal self, and depending on which is larger, suggests which I am more focused and aligned with, or if my personal staff is looming over the real self one. Sometimes the personal staff is bright red, as it is struggling to gain the upper hand, and on one occasion faces had formed in the staffs, and the personal staff had bitten half the face clean off from the awareness staff. But everyone will have methods and devise means by which they can read these realities and psych realms, and develop ways of confirming awareness or not, or determining the nature of dreams, not just by the contents, but by phenomena that add to the overall picture. As I said, it's quite the adventure. Guides and Dwayne on the one side, sharing for our awareness benefit, the controllers on the other, vying for attentions, and with the influence thrown in, and the personal self seemingly able to affect dreams also. But through all this, one thing is certain: We came here to become more aware and recognize our real intent. That is, to recognize the is and stand with it. And everything in creation is experience toward that end, and regardless of the nature of the experience or the source from which it flows. It serves the same purpose, that of comparison, endless viewpoints to allow comparison and becoming more aware, bypassing cause and effect creation, and finally standing real with the is.